Welcome to Deep Thought. Different groups of people simply think differently. And this is very important because y'all know I look at different groups. I talk about different cultures and everything. Like a few weeks ago, I talked about different groups within the black community, specifically the black community. And of course, they had a dumb detractor trying to say, oh, no, it's all the same. It's all hip hop and all. It's like, you know what? It's probably a racist. Because it's stupid. Like within any community, I don't care what the community is, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, small ethnic groups. The reality is different people just simply going to think differently. And it's going to be myriad factors there. Like just even on a DNA level, it's going to be differently. Like I'll give you something. Like in Western culture, it's a big thing about what we consider obesity. You know, people eating too much. In fact, one of the things I do when I have the TV on, I don't watch very few shows, but I'll have a business channel on, and a big thing is obesity in the United States. Yet you have some cultures, some groups around the world, you know, whereas we might be like, oh no, we can't put on all that weight. Shoot, places in the South Pacific and Africa, they're like, nah, you got to have some weight. They're different groups. They just think differently. They look at it differently. That's what, like on my men's channel, I'm constantly saying there's no objective standard of beauty. Because a lot of people, you got some guys thinking, oh, yeah, I got to look like Chad. Yeah, it depends on where you at. Depends on where you at. It's not universal. They're going to think about it differently. Let's use the beauty thing. I remember a professional makeup artist, I'll never forget what she said. She said there were over 100 beauty cultures in the world. Over 100. That means they're going to look people within that ethnic group, that racial group, ethnic group, nationality, however you want to divide it, they're going to look at stuff differently. You know? They're going to look at the human body differently. They're going to think about it differently. Like the food cult, like food. You got different cultures look at food differently. Like in Asian cultures, you got some Asian cultures, they have no problems eating a dog. I've seen it, you know? And then, you know, of course here we'd be like, no, but we're thinking differently in the West. And then, you know, you look at some place like India, you know, rats can run around. People are like, yeah, whatever. We see a rat, we're ready to get upset. You know, and indeed, one of the things, I think I looked at one video on IG, one of those shorts about rats. Now I keep getting them now. I was like, oh God, you know, pet rats. Those people are actually thinking differently. Like, yeah, I see a rat, it's like, gotta kill it. You know, somebody else be like, oh, let me give it some food and stuff. But it's different people, different things. And one of the things that people have to understand is it's nothing wrong with that. See, one of the problems we have in now, and this is a big issue, and you have one group of people thinking everybody need to think and do things like them. You know, when you have one group of people trying to conquer a group of people or think they can tell them what to do, they just want them to think like them. It's like, no. They, like, individually, they just gonna think differently. And as a group, they gonna think differently. You know? I mean, you can break it down however you want. But they just different groups. They gonna see stuff differently. They gonna see the world. Part of it is, once again, part of it is DNA. You know, when you talk about Africa, you know, it's gonna be warm in most of it. So people, they gonna look at winter clothing. They're not in the same way as people in like northern regions of the world. You know, so it's going to be different styles of dress. You know, biologically, there are differences. People try to say we're all one big race, but, you know, people going to respond to the sun differently. It is what it is. You know, it's going to be different styles of thinking. Some people might be more creative. Some people might be more analytical and everything. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just a matter of respecting the differences and even learning from the differences. because it's so many factors that go into it. Like let me use class again, regardless of race. There's a big difference in how someone who is rich, they're in a wealthy class, is going to think versus someone who is in a poor class. They're going to think differently. You know, the poor person might be thinking in terms of just everyday survival. You know, if they get a if they get a toothache, they had to sit on it. I remember seeing something, and it was a group of doctors who were heading a place, I think it was in Appalachia or a very poor area, and they were providing free services like free dental work and everything, you know, because the people couldn't afford it. So if you thinking every day, okay, about everyday survival, what you going to eat, you thinking about the neighborhood you live in, you know, where you might have some actual predators, you can get robbed. You know, you're living in a house that, you know, you might not be able to afford central heating. You might not be able to afford central heating. You got a whole bunch of stuff. The neighborhood's dirty. You're going to think differently from somebody from a wealthy background who, if they even get just a prim wick on their teeth, they can go to some of the best dentists. You know? They can stay, you know, they don't have to worry about it. They can halfway, you got some neighborhoods you can actually leave your doors open because people, you don't have to worry about crime, nice and clean. Everybody has money. You don't have to worry about eating or anything. You're going to think differently. You're going to think differently. It's so many factors. And it's just, you know, one of the things, like I said, you got some people, groups of people who quite frankly want everybody to think like they do. Even to the point of trying to force it through political means, you know, or think something is wrong with this person because they don't think. It's like, no, they just think differently. They got different circumstances. You know, they're going to see stuff differently. There's no shame in that. Learn from it. That's what all I would say is, you know, learn from it. You don't have to think like exactly some other person does, you know, but learn from it. So you're going to have a different perception because it's deeper than just the thoughts you're thinking, but your perception. You're going to see stuff different. Like, let me use the beauty thing. Let me use the beauty thing, even a racial thing. You know, brother see a woman, she voluptuous, got big breastises and big old butt. But, you know, might be like, yeah, oh man, she a dime. But you got some white guys see the same woman, it's like, oh, she need to lose some weight and stuff. Now, each one is looking at them, you know, the women from a different perspective. You know, it ain't right or wrong, it just is. So that's the thing. And then understanding that it's just different groups, different people. Like I said, it could start from just pure DNA. You know, you got different social classes, different regions, different countries, different languages, everything. As a result of all of these things, people are simply going to think differently. Ain't no shame in it. It just is what it is. You know, I want y'all to think about that. And you don't have to think the way I do on it, but see it from your perspective. You know, that's the whole thing. You know, yes, there are differences. There are differences. But we have to respect those differences. So, anyway, that's all I have for now. I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.